I'm Jerry Ford. Welcome to Jungle Jerry's Treehouse. If you hear some noise in the background, I'm just making some hot water in my coffee maker for some tea, some afternoon tea. All right, so I'm going to read a book out of this book here called The Monster Book, Creatures, Beasts, and Fiends of Nature. Nick Redfern is the author. What is a Wulver? Wulver. You think it's like part Wolverine or something, or? Let's find out. It's on page 49. Okay, here it is. It actually starts on page 48. Okay. You ready? Let that water heat up a little bit more there on the little burner. While I read this story. In her 1932 book, Shetland Traditional Lore, the noted folklorist Jessie Margaret Edmonston Saxby wrote, "The Wulver was a creature like a man, with a wolf's head. He had short brown hair all over him. His home was a cave dug out of the side of a steep Knowe. I don't think I've ever heard that word before. Halfway up a hill. He didn't molest folk if folk didn't molest him. He was fond of fishing and had a small rock in the deep water which is known to this day as the Wulver's Stain. There he would sit fishing silax and piltacks for hour after hour. Never heard of those fish, if that's what they are. He was reported to have frequently left a new fish on the windowsill of some poor body. Unlike the traditional werewolf, the Wulver was not a shapeshifter. Its semi-human, semi-wolf appearance was natural and unchanging. One of the most fascinating and certainly disturbing accounts of a Wulver came from Elliot O'Donnell. Shortly after the start of the 20th century, O'Donnell interviewed a man named Andrew Warren, who had a startling story to tell. O'Donnell carefully recorded every word that Warren had to say. The priceless account reads, "I was about 15 years of age at the time, and had for several years been residing with my grandfather, who was an elder in the Kirk Church of Scotland. He was much interested in geology, and literally filled the house with fossils from the pits and caves around where we dwelt. One morning he came home in a great state of excitement, and made me go with him to look at some ancient remains he had found at the bottom of a dried-up tarn, in parentheses, lake. Look," he cried, bending down and pointing at them. "Here is a human skeleton with a wolf's head. What do you make of it?" I told him I did not know, but supposed it must be some kind of monstrosity. "It's a werewolf," in parentheses, sick, S-I-C. He rejoined, "That's what it is, a werewolf. This island was once overrun with satyrs and werewolves. Help me carry it to the house." I did as he bid me, and we placed it on the table in the back kitchen. That evening I was left alone in the house, my grandfather and the other members of the household having gone to the kirk. For some time I amused myself reading, and then fancying I heard a noise in the back premises. I went into the kitchen. There was no one about. And becoming convinced that it could only have been a rat that had disturbed me, I sat on the table alongside the alleged remains of the werewolf and waited to see if the noises would recommence. I was thus waiting in a litless sort of way, my back bent, my elbows on my knees, looking at the floor and thinking of nothing in particular, when there came a loud rap, tat-tat, of knuckles on the window pane. Rat-a-tat-tat, I guess. I immediately turned in the direction of the noise and encountered, to my alarm, a dark face looking in at me. At first dim and indistinct, it became more and more complete until it developed into a very perfectly defined head of a wolf terminating in the neck of a human being. Though greatly shocked, my first act was to look in every direction for a possible reflection, but in vain. There was no light either without or within in any way have produced an illusion. I looked at the face and marked each feature intently. It was unmistakably a wolf's face, the jaws slightly distended, the lips wreathed in a savage snarl, the teeth sharp and white, the eyes light green, the ears pointed. The expression of the face was diabolically malignant, and as it gazed straight at me, my horror was as intense as my wonder. This it seemed to notice, for a look of savage exultation crept into its eyes, and it raised one hand, a slender hand, like that of a woman, though with prodigiously long and curved fingernails, menacingly, as if about to dash into the window pane. Remembering what my grandfather had told me about evil spirits, I crossed myself. I guess this. But as this had no effect, and I really feared the thing would get at me, I ran out of the kitchen and shut and locked the door, remaining in what had happened, or remaining in the hall till the family returned. My grandfather was much upset when I told him what had happened, and attributed my failure to make the spirit depart to my want of faith. Had he been there, he assured me he would soon have got rid of it, but he nevertheless made me help him remove the bones from the kitchen, and we reinterred them in the very spot where we had found them, and wherefore aught I know to the contrary, they still lie. Dr. Carl Schucker, who has made a careful study of this particular case, says quite aside from its highly sensational storyline, it is rather difficult to take seriously any account featuring someone, in parentheses, Warren's grandfather, who seriously believed that the Hebrides were once overrun with satyrs and werewolves. My comparison, and despite his youthful age, Warren's own assumption that the skeleton was that of a deformed human would seem eminently more sensible, at least until the remainder of his account is read. Notwithstanding Warren's claim that his account was factual, however, the arrival of what was presumably another of the deceased wolf entities kind, seeking the return of the skeleton to its original resting place, draws upon a common theme in traditional folklore and legend. Man, there's some hard words to come upon, when you're not expecting them to be there. It makes it hard to pronounce them. But there you go. Man. There's another little black box right here. It says, the expression of the face was diabolically malignant, and as it gazed straight at me, my horror was intense as my wonder. There's another one over here, I think. Another black box. Unlike the traditional werewolf, the Wulver was not a shapeshifter. Its semi-human, semi-wolf appearance was natural and unchanging. There you go. That was the Wulver. The Monster Book, Creatures, Beasts, and Fiends of Nature by Nick Redfern. All right. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. See you on the next one. Bye.